That's not always easy. As an architect, I think many times you need to compromise, you meet obstacles or you meet requirements that requires compromise. I'm fortunate in the sense that I often get very interesting requirements from clients. Every new task is a new adventure. There is a difference, I think, between the architecture made in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. I guess Norwegians or Norwegian architects mostly use different materials. And there is a style difference as well. Yes, I'd say so. Probably it might be a US or European term of architecture where you use light wooden materials. A fairly large amount of natural daylight into the buildings. So it's a sort of open architecture towards your near environment, and a lot of daylight, light surfaces in terms of color. I am Snorre Stinesen. My office is Stinesen Arkitektur, and we do architecture, interior designs, and also furniture design. My favorite directions? I guess you would say it's modern style architecture. I probably lean a bit towards what's close to my heart, which is what you'd call a Scandinavian style. But most of all, the piece of architecture, the building needs to sit well in its environment, in my opinion. It needs to answer to the functional requirements of the client, but also sit well on the site. It fits into the close environment. When you come here to Northern Norway, it's quite different if you are in Southern Norway, because we have 2 months here without the sun. So there won't be much daylight, regardless how large windows you have. You're right.
My name is Sebastian. I work here at Manshausen Island Resort. in Nordland, far north up in Norway. This area is called Steigen. It's south of a little bit more famous place called Lofoten. I think the philosophy around the cabins, being in nature, but also being able to sit inside in a comfortable environment. Pretty special waking up with the wall is almost like sleeping outside almost. So that's why I got these huge glass windows. And there's nothing else in the cabins, no TVs, nothing else that can take the focus from the environments here. We have 4 sea cabins. We have the Everest, it's on the top here, and we have the North Pole facing the north towards an island that's called Angel Island. And we have Svalbard in the middle down here. And we got the South Pole facing south. The entrance for Everest. Everything here is natural materials. I think it's lark, and it don't need any paint. It's pretty resilient against the weather here. And this is the sleeping area. If you turn off the lights inside the cabin, you can sit here and have like a perfect view of the Northern Lights. I've been sitting inside the white cabin and I heard people yelling like "woohoo!" like because the light show was so amazing. Really majestic mountains just near the coastline. Modern time, but I feel a strong connection to the area because of the combination of the mountains and the sea. So yeah, it's a special place.
Today, cabin is a retreat. It's a way to get out of city life, have your own sort of private and retreat where you can relax, where you can just be with the family and be yourself.
We started the office in 2008 by traveling to a small village in Thailand. So that was the start of this, and now we're focusing more on the Norwegian projects. It's a coastal city, but at the same time we have a lot of snow in the winter, and it's cold, really cold. So now the temperature we have now is very unusual. Normally there would be a lot of snow here. My name is Yashar Hanstad. I'm a partner at Tyn Tjeneste. The projects that has the small budgets somehow become more fun to work with. Also because when I see these private cabins with millions of kroners that people use, I don't get that impressed, because you can do anything with a lot of money. But if you can actually achieve really high quality with less, that's a challenge, and that's more, for me, that's more impressive. I actually have been building my own house for the last 6 years now. Long journey for me, and that, I guess that's my place now. And for maybe in 10 years I'm finished. In any location where you're adding something, you will get in dialogue with nature. And you can either choose to become closer to nature, or you can distance yourself.
My name is Håvard Lund, my last name. I'm 46 years old. I'm a musician, composer, and the main owner of the project at Flenvær called Fordypningsrommet Flenvær. My idea started with building a cabin for myself, a kind of double dome, something very small, where I could sit and work concentrated with my music. But things in life have changed, and I need to share what I do with people. It's like my music. I need to at least try to share it. So after a long process, we ended up with 9 small houses. From idea to the opening in August 16, it took 12 years. But the first years were very slow. We were digging in the ground with just our hands, and the last 3 years were extremely steep.
A lot of Norwegians have cabins, and it's a place for weekends or for where you can gather your family. It's become our second home for almost every Norwegian, and maybe a lot of people. The cabin is a lot more interesting than the house itself. A lot of these cabins go from generation to generation, and it can be. Sometimes people tear down the old cabin, build a new one, or maybe the family owns land and then they choose to build a new cabin.
Like music, good architecture can be about making people's life better. Good architecture can be replacing medicine in people's life, actually. Giving people good surroundings to live their lives as they have to. Well, this tower house here is inspired by the Sam people, the indigenous people, which you also have in Russia, at the Kola. They built it up in the treetops as a wood house, a storage which couldn't be reached by wolves, bears, and all the other animals. It's a very nice framing of the nature here. You see the view. I think all the details in this project is about accuracy, about being precise. And many of the things you name now as details is here because of extremely skilled carpenters. Not one single place is boards split and spliced. We have only long lines. That makes extremely amounts of cut-offs, offcuts, if you are not a skilled carpenter which knows how to use all the material. Big credits for my carpenters, which is Ruben and Andy.
He's always had these really strange and sometimes difficult ideas that we are trying to interpret into architecture. And in that sense, the project would never have been without him. He is the project.
What really good architects do to frame the nature perfect. Because architecture for me is not to let all the nature in. That's too open. But if you start to narrow it, then you push also people out. If you want to see the rest, well, then you have to go out. It's both the playful thing, it's both the slapping, it's both the slapping, it's the kicking, if you understand. It's music. Some will hate it, some will love it, some will cry, some will enjoy. Thank you. Спасибо.
My fiance's family has a cabin that has no electricity. It's freezing cold. You have to use the fireplace to keep it warm, and in the winter the only way to get water is to go and drill the ice and bring water. And for me that's the ideal picture of how I would like my cabin to be, because it's everything that my house is not. Every building there has a different approach on how to meet the earth, the ground. How do you touch the ground in an area that is so vulnerable and so unique? You do not want to ruin anything, because it will take hundreds of years to get it back. Having this respect to the nature, I think, has been one of the main ideas. During the last years, most of the project we have been building ourselves, because we really enjoy building architecture. And actually, the boathouse that I built it all by myself, and I was living there for I think maybe 4 or 5 months alone, and it was almost like a meditation for me, living there, building it by myself. And what you will feel the most in the area is the amount of sky you have surrounding you all the time. It's so huge. And also the sun, not right now, but in the summer, you will see it's so low, and it sort of never, it disappears some hours, but then it comes back, and it's really a fantastic area.
There is no particular Pier 2 style. It's all different because it belongs to the site or the region or something. We always try to catch something local. Roar had a plan of building, of using the land for something else than just sheep, because it was too little for a family to live for. And so we planned those little cottages in the hill.
My name is Roar Svenning. I'm originally from this place. Moved away when I was 15, moved back again. So when we started these projects out here, I was very keen on trying to challenge the ideas of how things should be and make it like we think it best would be into the future. I mean, architecture should look forward and not backwards. You could say hi to the guys and the traditions of what has been made, but you should look forward to think what will be cool in a few years or so. Now it's much easier because we have proven something. When you have done some and some people see that, well, it's possible, so then you get more attention and support.
We have really enjoyed working on that project. It's probably one of the most interesting we have. One of the favorite projects of the office, I suppose. Yeah. My name is Oddmund Sørli, and I was one of the founders of Pier 2 Architects in 1994. We were walking around in the area after we had maybe too many beers. Everybody is moving into the cities. We want them to move back where the food is being produced, where the fish is caught, and try to make a good environment for modern people to live in the countryside.
It's good for the students to start with hand drawings and learn to draw with hands, because it's creating something different. And it's hard to say if it's better or worse than computer drawing, but I think it's another process. Architecture for me is when you can combine construction and form and material in one thing together. I'm at least most happy if these three really tight into each other. For me, it's this combination, but it, of course, not always have to be. A lot of examples that architecture can be just form or just construction or just space in a way. But in my projects, I try to combine these three elements.
Architecture for me is all physical around you. It's the frame around your life, in a way. If you look at architectural history in Norway, the style has been following more or less European influences, but a little bit after. Scandinavian style in a way, especially after the 1950s and 60s, which is maybe more rough wooden constructions. Yeah.
I like this house in a way too. It's a very simple building. I like it because it's done for just a short time ago in a way, and it's a little boathouse on the coastline. And also here again, you know, I try to work with the construction and the space and the material together. It's kind of this solid material, a little bit old-fashioned dimensions at the material, and also in a way using structure or construction as a form element in a way. It was nominated for Mies van der Rohe Prize. And it's an older project, the one family house here I built quite some years ago. That one too, it's 2007. This is a competition for a toilet actually. A toilet with a nice view. I made a roof rack from my car because I couldn't find one I liked and was practical. But not only liking, but it's more, it should be practical, it should work, and it should be beautiful in a way. That's this combination again. It's in my own house, what I share with my wife. And that was very interesting. I think I think it made me a better architect to get into kind of what this house is telling us today, and we talked about color, and here this green door and the brown window and this different shades, and they try to make it look like it's of stone in a way, but it's of course not stone. But this kind of color setting, it's very interesting. So I think it's just important to see the world and take it in and see what's coming out again in a way.
In all the projects, we try to find the best solution, and almost all the time the best solution is outside the law. Well, my name is Reiulf Ramstad. That's a really Norwegian name. And the name of the company is Reiulf Ramstad Arkitekter. Some small fictional elements that might not be true could kind of be very good into when you want to tell a story. I believe that we need to be more experimental, use our imagination as architects, as we learn in architecture school, and not be afraid of trying out new solutions. And we need progress in the field of architecture. We need to invent new ways of living. All parts of architecture, it's a challenge when you change a material to another, or you change direction from a wall to a floor, from a floor to a ceiling, etc. All the projects we are developing is within that triangle: quality, meaning and fun, and economy. No? If not, it's going to be just something, a dream. And we like to develop architecture, which is both pragmatic and fantastic at the same time. So that's the mission. The first stages of the project was that we reduced the size from like 350 square meters down to 140. And we didn't want to harm the trees, so we built the building on the the highest point of the site, so we can leave all the vegetation as intact as possible. So we hardly didn't demolish any small tree at all. We had a really nice plan that we could do the work without having a lot of remaining elements or parts that had to be retransported back. The work of the architecture, according to me, like design these cabins and cottages, is actually the purpose to give people occasion to experience natural surroundings and learn more from nature. And some of the projects we've been doing is actually to give visitors and people an opportunity to experience dramatic nature in a free way. And I think that even if we continue to live in more and more dense urban areas, I think it's important not to lose your inner self and the relation you actually have to the elements, the seasons, the smells, the temperature, all the tactile qualities that surrounds you. So in a humanistic education, I think it's important for all of us, if we live in dense urbanized areas or not, to have the possibility to experience nature as something that is actually very meaningful for all of us. Ideals that people should work in one place, living in another, and have their spare time, their leisure time in a third. If you live so close to your work that you can walk there, you don't pollute, and you also get some physical exercise, and you can enjoy walking. I think the built environment is extremely important when we make it. We actually are creating the everyday frames for a lot of people's life, and that is a big responsibility. So I think the future of architecture in many ways is kind of make research into how the compact and efficient and small, and how you can combine the small with the big. Our micro and macro is actually in the same place, not in two different places. And then the future of cities should be much more people-friendly, and also for culture, social, economic, environmental and safety reasons. So you can enjoy yourself, meet friends, have a drink and tell a lot of bullshit too, no? Yeah. People are very different. So I think in a good place, in a city, there are different kind of opportunities how you can live. And I believe that we always try to find something that has this purpose and sense for the situation.
From 2007, from 7 to 9, we developed the project and started to ask for money. The museum is in the middle of the town. He made a very good analysis. Nature and culture inspires this building, this design, which is very good, very interesting, extremely interesting. Adjustment of the symmetry and asymmetry. So he has still this not very symmetrical. It was the most spectacular design. And we had asked for that. We had said we want a building for the primary functions of the museum. And secondly, we want the building to be an attraction. When this building first was published in the local papers, people were a bit, oh, what is this? This is strange. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. And you will automatically take a photo. I said, and this is true. And people didn't like the Eiffel Tower when it was built. It should be torn down the year afterwards. Now the whole world is in Paris and crazy about selfies with the Eiffel Tower. And this has happened here as well. exhibitions, films. School children have a warm room, library. I mean, it's like a paradise. For us who work here and for the visitors who come to see. And they stay here for hours. Ramstad, you see, he has some big windows and some narrow windows, and he has kind of thrown them around the building, not symmetrically, but and that is also an element he has taken from traditional architecture. The farmers of the past, they didn't have electricity, and they made a hole in the wall where they needed light inside. Casual. The Romsdal Museum has about 100 old buildings from this region. It's a regional museum, open-air museum with authentic buildings, all wooden buildings, and the oldest one is about 400 years old in this log construction, pine trees with these grass roofs. You see, this is the tradition of the logs, you know, with the trees, the tree trunks joined in the corners. It's the dominating. Vertical, horizontal. So this has been, is also more than several thousand years old. The oldest buildings were stone buildings, but all had grass roofs. Torv, it's called in Norwegian, peat, and then the moss and the bushes and the trees start growing. Small, narrow, just for seasonal use, and look at this. The door and this, they use the tree for the frame. The best door ever. For me, architecture is very important. I like it a lot, and that's why I put so much energy in managing this building. Norway is not only nature and beautiful nature. Norway should also promote itself as with history and our contemporary know-how.
It's not so important if the book is true or not. What's important is that the story captures you, that you really like the story, you think is fantastic.